Raptors circles are slow right now in terms of news or anything coming out of there, so I thought what better time to talk about this historic run from Team Canada in the FIBA World Cup. What's up everybody, it's JJ Buckets. I told you what we're doing today and obviously I'll get into more of it, but make sure before the video starts to just hit a like. It makes such a big difference in the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here, plus if you plan on doing any responsible sports betting in the near future, just make sure to check out my link in the description below. For those that missed it, Canada knocked off Slovenia today 100-89, which is gonna send them through to the semi-finals of the tournament, a feat that has never been accomplished before. And a lot of the focus and a lot of the credit for this win is naturally gonna go to a player like Shay Gilchrist-Alexander. And deservedly so, right? Like, depending on the graphics that you look at, and obviously even just the eye test of watching the tournament, Shay Gilchrist-Alexander has easily, and I mean easily, been one of the best players, if not the best player at the tournament, at least in this specific tournament. Don't get it twisted, I'm not actually calling him better than somebody like Luka, who's also in the tournament, but he has played extremely well, right? Like, nobody is going to deny that Shay Gilchrist-Alexander has been fantastic for Canada, and he has been a big proponent of Canada being as successful as they are. The point of this video will not be to discredit Shay Gilchrist-Alexander, who I think, you know, for a lot of the part is one of the biggest, if not the biggest driving factor for their success, but I do want to shine a spotlight on a bit of an unsung hero. I mean, I have seen him get a little bit of credit throughout this whole process, but I want to give him some more and give him some credit of my own. And oh boy, I'm gonna brace myself a little bit here, but the player that I actually want to talk about today is Dillon Brooks. I don't think it's a secret to anyone that Dillon Brooks had a bit of a rough ending with the Memphis Grizzlies this season, right? He had a bad playoff series against the Los Angeles Lakers there in the first round, and for the most part got, I'm gonna say, I think he got scapegoated once that series was over. Obviously he got run out of town and all that stuff, and his image took a real hit. I mean, yeah, you know what, like, against his credit, I suppose, it did not look really great, kind of like taking his licks at LeBron, and then once, you know, the Grizzlies went down, all that stuff, you know, not even kind of showing up to the press conferences and stuff. Not a good look on Dillon Brooks whatsoever. However, this run with Team Canada, which has given him a new opportunity, a new setting similar to what he will have in Houston, this run with the Canadian national team, I think is going to go a long way to rehabbing his image and, quite frankly, putting some confidence really back into him. Now, the numbers aren't going to jump off the charts for you by any means when it comes to the overall statistics from this FIBA World Cup. However, when you look at the last two games, which have obviously been crucial to Team Canada's run, against Spain and against Slovenia, you're not winning those games without Dillon Brooks. Quite frankly, I would say he is irreplaceable in those games in terms of what he brought to the table. Canada wouldn't be here, still in this tournament, in the semifinals, without him. The Spain game, first of all, was an absolute Dillon Brooks masterclass. For those of you that watched, and for those of you that didn't, I'll obviously talk about it here anyways, there were times in that game where Canada easily could have let things slip. They could have lost, and they could have been out of the tournament, or at least out of, you know, this part of the tournament when it comes to, you know, being in the semis, being where they are now. Dillon Brooks in the Spain game changed the energy, in particular in that final comeback that Team Canada managed to pull off against Spain. You don't get there without Dillon Brooks' energy defensively and being active and, quite frankly, just being who he is as a player. On top of, you know, just some really key shots that Dillon Brooks knocked down. In particular, obviously, he had the tying shot that tied the game up at 80 apiece. And without him, like, in those moments, you're not winning that game. And I think that game in particular really highlighted what Dillon Brooks is at his best. Now, he's not always going to be the, you know, consistent, I guess, offensive option, the efficient offensive option from the perimeter by any stretch of the imagination. That's not him. He hasn't developed that fully. Although, if he eventually does, he's going to be a damn good pro in the NBA for a really long time. However, even as he is now at his best, his energy can be so contagious for a team. And when he's on and when that energy is absolutely shining, that goes to every other player that you have on the court with him, right? Like, I'm obviously talking about intangibles here, like it's such a conversation of intangibles, but yes, at his best, when he can bring it, and you know, there's definitely been times, you know, in his NBA career when he hasn't, but when he can bring it, that energy is just so contagious. People play harder, and quite frankly, you got that out of Canada. The entire team just fed off of that. You had momentum shifting plays by Brooks time and time again in that game, and again, they don't win that game without it. In the game against Slovenia, offensively, Brooks was fine, but I think in the moments where he really shined, it was, again, doing what he should be doing best, being the agitator, and quite frankly, giving Luka Doncic a hard time. So naturally, the game for both of those guys ended with them getting ejected, right? And while it may not have been at the exact same time, Brooks ended up obviously getting ejected for taunting, whereas Luka ended up picking up his second technical later, complaining to the ref after he thought he was fouled by, I believe it was Lou Dort. Yes, Luka is a naturally one of those guys that's going to chew and bark at the referees, but I think having the impact of somebody like a Dillon Brooks, giving him hell and annoying the shit out of him throughout the game makes the difference, and making Luka more and more agitated throughout that game and eventually getting himself kicked out. And I don't think it's any secret to anybody that obviously not having Luka Doncic on the court is a big deal, right? Now, you can argue Canada was going to win the game anyways. I think they had a powerful second half. Canada, you know, was holding off Slovenia for the most part. Once they kind of took that lead, they ran with it, but obviously you never know with a guy like Luka. That man is insane. So getting him out of the game is a big deal, and it might sound a little silly to go, it's like, yeah, hey, this guy did a great job, because eventually, you know, the way that he played ended up getting the star player for the other team kicked out. But I mean, like, again, if you're looking at the intangible parts of basketball, I kind of think that's essentially what ended up happening. Is you have Dillon Brooks pestering Luka throughout the game, that even when Dillon Brooks is gone and you have Dort on him, obviously, like, Luka has felt that frustration throughout the entire game. He's felt annoyed, etc., that he just has a shorter fuse with the referees, and then boom, Luka's tossed out of the game, right? Like, stuff like that does make a difference, as much as, you know, sometimes it might be annoying, especially if you're on the other side of it. Stuff like that makes a difference. Basically what I'm saying in this video is Dillon Brooks' presence on Team Canada has absolutely been game-changing, at the very least, in these last two games, which have been, again, do-or-die games for Canada both times. Dillon Brooks has played tremendously in both of those games, and Canada is not in the semifinals without Dillon Brooks being on that team. If he could, you know, keep this energy throughout the NBA season with the Rockets, they might be a little bit better than you think. But as it currently stands, the point of this whole video is just to sit here and go, you know what, man? Here's this player. A lot of people hate him. A lot of people have, you know, talk shit on his name. I'm gonna give him some kudos. You know what? Know your role, Dillon Brooks, and do it effectively. He's done it the past two games, and it has absolutely made the difference for Canada. So shout out to you. Yeah, that has pretty much been me for the day. What do you folks think? I thought it was a fun time to kind of like break away a little bit from the Raptors content and just take a look at the FIBA World Cup, because I mean, it's an event that's currently going on. It's exciting, and it's still basketball. It's the sport that we all love, right? So I thought I'd shine a little bit of light onto that. Yeah, any thoughts that you have, by all means, drop them in the comment section. Other than that, folks, we're at the end of the video, so I'm going to reiterate the usual drill. Like the video if you're still watching this. It takes a second, makes a huge difference for the algorithm, so thank you very much if you're doing it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Other than that, just a little bit of housekeeping here. I believe I'm going to be going back to one video a week. My schedule is ramping up in terms of school and stuff like that, so can't sustain the 2 video a week schedule. I will do it where I can, but it's one of those things that I make no promises. Anyways, folks, it's been JJ Buckets. It's been a pleasure, and I will see everybody next time.